What's happening, Blades? Job done. Job done, 3 points, and that's the main thing. I'm going to try and be positive, but I want to be honest again in my reflection of the game. I thought Reading were awful last night. As I record this, it was last night. I thought we were the second worst team on the pitch. I didn't think we were very impressive at all. Now, I caveat this with, yes, we'll have been very nervous. So I understand why we were a bit tentative, a little bit sloppy. I thought Egan gave possession away. Watching Egan pass the ball out behind Robinson and stuff like that out of play, so uncharacteristic, but it just shows where we are and how desperate we were for those 3 points. I thought Norwood was sloppy again, and it's unfortunate because 2/3 of the season he's been outstanding, and these last 3 or 4 games he's just been really poor, to be honest. Sander, very deep. We're okay. We're on the ball a little bit more. But the fact he was so deep, and McAtee were also deep at times. He were okay for the first 10-15, I thought, McAtee. But then faded out of the game. Not in the areas we need him to be. There was such a gap then between the strikers and the midfield that strikers were coming deep. And then they've got to beat their men, and McBurney's no pace. And Dai is amazing and getting out of those little 3-4 player clusters. But then, he can't do it all on his own. So, some real frustrations last night. Although the overall picture is we won and we got the 3 points that we needed. I'm not sure why Baldock didn't start. Bogle, for me, looks like he needs a rest. He's certainly not in form. If we had a replacement for Max Lowe, who I think has been very poor for the last few games, then I'd be advocating for that as well. But the sooner Reece Norrington-Davies comes back, the better. But I thought we edged it. We certainly were the better team. First half, we looked very comfortable without penetrating them at all, but very comfortable in possession. I tweeted at half-time just to say, I don't know why we've started just crossing from the edge of the box. And I get McBurney's in there, he's a bit of a target man, which I still don't think is his main strength. I think he links up play well, and I think he's better with ball to feet in front of him. But yes, he can head a ball, he can win headers, so we can cross a ball to him every now and again when we're mixing it up. But our main success comes from when we get to the byline and drag it back across goal for players to run onto. And the minute we did that in second half, and it's certainly not down to myself, but it's one that doesn't really make sense to me. Why we're not doing that more often? Because McBurney goes to the byline, great through ball, he runs to the byline, drags it back, and then Dai pokes it in for the only goal of the game. And it was the only time we did that all game, and it was the only time we scored. So, can we get back to basics, really? I don't know what Tommy Doyle has to do to get a game. I watched Nick's match reaction last night, and I'm questioning the same sort of things, really, in terms of, has he got an appearance-related fee that we'll have to pay a certain amount if he plays over 25, 30 games for us? But he's looked really good when we've seen him recently, so we've got to go. You can't just pick your favourites every time. You've got to go with men in form. Tommy Doyle needs to play on Saturday for me. No, there's no doubt nobody's going to watch that and fear us. We have to up our performance levels if we're going to make it over that line. If we play like that against a better team, if we play like that on Saturday, we won't beat Luton. I'm glad that we're welcoming an L back, because I think Bash has been poor in the last 2 games, which I don't like saying. I thought he was great against Tottenham. Up there for man at match, as were a lot of other players, to be fair. But I think in the last 2 games, it's shown how far down he's fallen, unfortunately. And it sounds like I'm being negative, and I don't mean to be, because we've won. We've won, and it's more of a relief. It's just get them 3 points. That's the main thing. But I think something I questioned again with Eki last night was, I don't understand some of the tactics. So when we're 1-0 up in a game that we need to win, I said something similar on a previous ramble as well. Why do we have to go like for like with formation every time? So what I'm getting at is when Ndiaye goes down with a bit of an injury, and let's hope that's not a true injury, and he can shake it off. Eki said afterwards it were a bang, so hopefully he can shake that off before Luton. But Billy Sharp and Ollie McBurney as a pair have never worked. Billy's not firing on all cylinders. This is not against Billy again. I thought when he came on, he won his odd free kick and he did okay, but them as a pair have never worked, even when Billy were in his more of his pomp than he is now. Why not, when we need to shore it up and we know that they're going to throw everything at us for the last 10, 15 minutes, and they didn't because they weren't really that good. They weren't really good enough, if I'm honest. We had that one Carroll header that we had to worry about. But in general, why are we not... What would have harmed there, when Ndiaye goes down, bring Tommy Doyle on and have an extra midfielder. Push McAtee further... And I know McAtee came off, but push McAtee a bit further up at that stage. Have him just behind McBurney. If that's how you want to do it, that's absolutely fine. Then you have Sander, Norwood and Doyle to protect us a little bit better. I don't get it. What? And I got a reply from Van Blade, which I thought were funny, which is, it's because we've got plan A, and then if that don't work, we follow it up with plan A. And if all else fails, there's plan A. And it made me laugh because that's how I feel as well. I think we struggle for a plan B here. I know sometimes we'll go to 4 at the back if we absolutely need something and chuck a striker on, which is, basics. But I don't get why we're not protecting ourselves a little bit better and making ourselves a little bit more solid. I'm not saying we should always sit back on a 1-0 lead, but let's be sensible about this for the last 10, 15 minutes. But again, that were a big win. We've talked about this game in hand for so long and that we need to take advantage of it when it comes around, and we have done. 7 points clear now. 7 points clear of Borough in third. It won't last long, this, and I don't mean that in a negative light. Obviously, we've got Blackburn quarter-final coming up in a couple of weeks, and that's when Borough will play a league game. So they'll play 3 league games before international break, and we'll play 2. So we'll have another game in hand. And what I want you to think about is, obviously we'd like to get through. We want to beat Blackburn. We want to get to Wembley. But that'll then push another league game back, and we'll have 2 games in hand. On Borough, they'll play 2 more than us. So it's likely, certainly the way they're playing and the fixtures they've got coming up, that the gap will be down to 1. Now, if you think about some of the fixtures that we've got coming up, and in particular I look at Norwich away, who are banging form at the moment, and scratching and clawing to get back into them playoff places. And obviously Burnley away is the big one. And there's a chance they can overtake us at some point. If we drop points at Carrow Road or we drop points at Burnley. So last night's 3 points is so important. So important. And it also means for me that the next 2 games are just as important. Every game will be, and I don't mean to sort of build everything up, 11 cup finals and all that, but beat Luton at home and beat Sunderland away over the next few days, and we'll be at least 7 points clear of third. And then we can afford to drop some points because some of the home games that are coming up after Burnley, in fact, the fixture list after Burnley, is much more appealing. If we can be 7 points clear of Borough come the Norwich game, I'll be confident. I'll be very confident. It's a big if. It's a big if. But we can do it. And last night was just another step towards. We've got to keep the faith. I think if we drop into the playoffs, the mentality shift will be insurmountable, really. I can't see us... We never do well in playoffs, as we all know. But I can't see us doing well after spending so long in automatic spots. So keep the faith, Blades. We can do this. The other thing as well to think about is news from, I'm going to call it the Medeski then, but the Select Car Leasing Stadium last night in Reading. An interesting spectator, Dozy Mmobuosi, seen in the director's box. It was widely speculated throughout the day. This has got to be a signal that it's close for me, and I've sort of nailed my colours to the mast. I think this is exciting for us. If it goes through, then it must be a positive because of the scrutiny that he's been through, and what a timely boost this would be. Can you imagine if we get to international break and we're still 7 in front, maybe even more, but that's wishful thinking. And then we start, Norwood signs a new deal, McBurney signs a new deal, and Illiman and Dye signs a new deal. Can you imagine the boost that would give going into the final run-in at the business end of the season? I know I'm being optimistic there, but we just keep riding the roller coaster of being a Blade. So before I go, I just want to leave you with another one of these. We are well on the way to 900 subscribers, and apologies for the colour choice. It was just simply the video fit with the wording. I'm certainly not blue, but I'm in need of a 9. I'm blue. Sorry. Please subscribe. Once I get to 1,000, I'll stop pushing it, I promise. So I hope it makes some of you smile, and for those of you that it really irritates, I do apologise. But it does make me laugh, so I'll probably keep doing it for the time being. Thanks again for your support. Much appreciated. I am okay after last night, but I'm not convinced. So I'm delighted with the result, concerned about the performance, but it's all we could have asked for last night. If you'd have offered me that this time yesterday, we're snapping your hand off. Just get the points on the board. Come on, you red and white wizards. Up the Blades!